What's up? Welcome back. Josh McMahon, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Silo, Season 2, Episode 8. Once again, we have sort of like two different paths to go. We have Juliet and her silo, and then we have the other silo. So in Juliet's silo, when's last we left off, because hers is just a lot easier to describe. So I'll start off with hers. She had come up out of the water. She turned the pump on, came up out of the water, and noticed that there was an axe, and Solo was gone, and she like given no context to anything. So she tries to figure out, and I think she's getting the bends as she's like going up the stairs. Is that I'm like, wait a minute? She starts getting like a ringing in her ears, and it's like hard for her to climb, and and she starts feeling sick and stuff like that. And I'm like, but she's not underwater. Is she? Should she have stayed longer at the level? Is she climbing too? Is now that she's out of the water, is she still climbing too fast? Is that what we're trying to say? Um, but ultimately, she gets stopped by a mysterious figure, person, who stops her and tells her not to go further. And she's like, I'm trying to find Solo. He's, you know, but this person's like, I killed him, and I'll kill you too if you don't turn around and go back. And Juliet doesn't immediately respond, so they fire an arrow and hit her. Juliet gets an actual arrow in her in this, and she has to. Then she retreats, and then she has to go get the arrow out, and she finds the medical supplies and sort of starts treating herself. And then they lure her into a trap, which I also don't understand. Is it's like, uh, they had her before, and I'm so confused. So it ends up being like two teenagers. Like the one with the bow and arrow was like a teenage boy, and then she sees a body and she thinks it's Solo, but it ends up being a teenage girl who ends up like fighting her. And Juliet's like, is doing a good job of defending herself, considering she's also been shot by an arrow. Then Arrow Boy comes back, Robin Hood is back, and we just kind of leave there. And these two people just do not seem like they want to listen to Juliet at all. And which is, I mean, obviously they will, because I don't think they're gonna kill off Juliet um, here. Bold choice, but I just don't think this is. So, meanwhile, in the other silo, Bernard figured out the thing about Walker last episode, that he has obviously the person that she loves, so he parlays that into this meeting with Walker where he basically says, you will be my stooge, or I will make her suffer. I'll keep her alive, and she'll feel insurmountable amounts of pain. And so Walker becomes the person who is betraying the people from the down low, the low down, the down lows, who are trying to figure out how to get up above because they need more supplies. So she has to rat out their first effort to do so. So a bunch of them get captured, and she has this really sort of uncomfortable conversation towards the end of the episode with Shirley, because she hates herself for having to sell out all of her friends, but ultimately she loves. And they do show a scene where she's like, why isn't our first priority getting her back? And they're like, well, it's infinitely harder to do that than it is to just climb a couple more levels and take a few more levels. So um, I kind of I got both sides of it, and at the same time, I was like, you know what? If they take the whole silo back, like if they ended up winning, if they just take it inch by inch by inch, Walker's very sort of myopically thinking about it. Um, but if they did end up sort of regaining or controlling most of the silo, they would probably eventually control whatever area she's kept in. I don't think she's kept on like the top floor of the silo, so I don't think they have to climb that high. But yeah, so there's that goes on. That also Common and his wife are trying to get information and figure out what the new Shadow is doing. He's trying to find the book. He's trying to find the key, basically, so that he can understand what this message is. And so he's doing his investigating. He's enjoying this new card that he has, being the Shadow, but nobody knows it's the Shadow. So he keeps having to like explain to people. He's like, "You see this card?" And people are like, "Oh, damn, it's blue." Shit. So he's got like the highest level clearance, and people just keep seeing, getting surprised. And he goes to the family, like the descendants of the guy, to see if they have any old relics. And they're like, "Listen, we've been tasked with this job for over 150 years because that man was a traitor." Which later we find out from Bernard is not true. That man was not a traitor. That he just realized that what needed to happen was this thing, and he sort of sacrificed himself for the good of the silo because like a revolution happened every 20 years, basically. And so he found a way of making it so, and coming up with a system that fixed everything, so that, and then they had that drug that makes people forget. So um, the family doesn't even know that there's a hero. So Lucas, after being sort of chewed out by the patriarch of his clan, goes back to let them know. By the way, he was actually a hero, and then he gets the books, and eventually figures out what the code is that they were looking for. So, and figures out what the message is, but we don't get the whole message. It's basically like, if you've made it this far, then you know the game is rigged, I think is what the message was. Um, so Lucas is learning new information. He also has a little exchange with, uh, or yeah, right? It was him. It wasn't. I was thinking about Ombudsman or whatever. He does do that little favor for Common, tells Common what he's doing, like what Lucas is doing. But then Common, Judge Common, I still think that'd be a great series. Um, is he finds the Shadow that should have been him, and he does let him know. He's like, "Yeah, you may be the Shadow now, but remember that Bernard is always playing. I thought I knew Bernard, and I thought I was in line for your job too, but Bernard is always playing Bernard. So you have to remember to think about you." And, he basically kind of also threatens him at the same time. He's like, your mom works in hospice, right? It'd be a shame if her son was up there. Uh, you know. Um, so I mean, he is right. Bernard plays Bernard, and but I don't think Bernard would throw Lucas Kyle back into the mines that quickly. If he he takes people who are useful to him and uses them. He just doesn't like the fact that Common doesn't. He just needs yes men. He needs people to do whatever he tells them to do. So he varies from people like the judge and Common when they don't follow what he's saying. And Lucas hasn't done that yet. So as long as Lucas keeps up being on Team Bernard, Bernard's not going to put him in the mine. So, yeah, it's another interesting episode with a lot of backstabbing and mystery, and a weird Robin Hood ending, or Archer, or Arrow. The Arrow is in here. I don't know. And we don't know what happened to Solo. We never actually see his body, so he could still be alive, like feasibly. Just because the kid said he killed him doesn't mean that he actually did kill him. Um, so Steve Zahn, it's kind of a big actor to just disappear from the show. Just be like, well, where'd he go? I don't know. That kid said he killed him. I guess he did, off screen, and we'll never see his body. You know, yeah, that would be weird. But we'll find out what the teens want. And obviously, they're teens. Are they teens from this silo? Are they teens from somewhere else? Where did these teens come from? We're pretty sure Solo was not the actual tech person for this group, for this silo. So he could have been an invader himself, and these could be invaders from another silo. Maybe all the other silos are fucked, and Hers is like the last silo that's working, and you get a whole bunch of people just like wandering around out there, like going from silo to silo and like scrounging. So for whatever they can get. Anyway, I love Silo, and I'm giving Silo an A. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.